Cool. Well, Skyler, this is good. This is a fun one. It's we're obviously really early for like tokenized real estates. We haven't seen a lot of really active companies in this space. So we have the opportunity to talk to Revolve. We like real estate a lot, so we thought this would be fun to just kind of
Yeah.
learn about what's happening right now in the tokenized real estate sector. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think just going after that new buyer, right? And providing more transparency, on-chain fractionalizing real estate, who they're going after, creating that, if you will, marketplace for distribution. I think that's definitely interesting and where a lot of this is going, right?
Yeah. I think it's also really cool. Like the one idea they brought up is like this should be like down the road, but the idea of, hey, I think like this market, it's just like sectors of a stock market where there's you got the
Yeah.
Nasdaq, you got the shipping sector, you got whatever healthcare, where you could like choose this area. Like I think Florida's really hot right now, and you kind of buy these
Yeah.
assets there, and I think in the future it could be somewhat like of an oracle for like Zillow or something like that, where they real
Yeah.
time data. It's not, you're not waiting for like for sales in this neighborhood every 6 months, whatever. uh
Yeah. Or even
it's
just
traded
to
daily.
get in early.
Yeah,
Yeah. Trade it daily and to be able to get in a fractionalized manner early, not have to buy an entire property, and put money to work, with a yield and looking at transparent data, which has always been a challenge with real estate, trying to find the details of the economics of what I'm buying outside just, spreadsheets and paper, right?
yeah,
But having that in real time, the value and that determined in a
yeah,
marketplace, I think is very, very interesting.
100%. Especially if it can get like really transparent, like everything's on chain. Like you could
Yeah.
see the rental numbers, you could see whatever when was the last time the AC was repaired. That's kind of more
Yeah.
down the line, but interesting to just think
Yeah.
about where it could go.
Yeah. I mean, all the data, you think even just, they talked about lending as well. It's another, obviously a big
Yeah,
use case with collateral and all that. All that has been paper and wrapped in different silos on someone's laptop, right? Or wherever it is, computer. Now you can put that programmatically into the system to where you can see transparently what's happening with a lending contract or just, all that along with, what's fractionalized on chain. I think that's a huge thing for sure.
yeah, yeah. A lot of
Removes a lot of friction.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity, and the fact that these properties too are like fully owned by the or token or NFT
Yeah.
holder, whatever it ends up being. Where instead of like taking like right now for me to buy $1 million house, you got to put down 200K. In this case, you're just putting out a
Yeah.
small amount, and again, kind of betting on that price appreciation and those management fees and
Yeah.
making money. So it's
Yeah.
interesting, really
Yeah.
interesting.
Definitely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
We're early, but excited to see where it goes. So without further ado,
Yeah.
let's jump into the video.
Let's jump into the show. Welcome to the All Funds Podcast. I'm Skyler Steinke. I'm here with my co-host, Mike Schroeder. We're here today to speak with Zack and Graham, the founders of Real Estate Evolved, or simply Revolve, CEO Zack, Dane, and Graham Goguen. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great, guys. Well, I figure we can start with kicking it off, maybe just the journey to this point of kind of your background, how you started Revolve, where it's at today, and what are you doing at Revolve currently. Maybe Zack, we can kick it off on your side, and then we'll switch over to Graham as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, little history was originally from the greater Los Angeles area, moved to Colorado about 15 years ago in search of opportunity and got into property management, real estate, and owning some rentals and just kind of getting into that field. I ended up managing about 200 single family, multifamily homes in Denver Metro, it's about 60 million in total portfolio value for around 6 or 7 years, and then got into car sales where I met Graham. And a few years back, we started pitching this idea, looking at rates and numbers and everything else and going, hey, the ability to expand beyond the home you live in, first-time buyers, all these people are struggling pretty extensively. So it was how do we collaborate to take my experience in real estate, Graham's experience in screenwriting and marketing and various other things and put together this idea of, hey, we're both homeowners. We both own rental property, how can other people get involved on a much easier and I guess I don't want to say inexpensive because that's not what it's about. It's about making sure we can all kind of join in and co-own and do these things together. But yeah, kind of spread the message. And so that's what birthed Revolve about 2.5 years ago. We spent the last 2 years in an R&D phase, really building and defining the message, right? It was, what are we selling? What are we talking about? And who is our primary demographic? And so it's been great up to this point. And now we're building our beta test platform. So I'll be hopefully launching that here this early summer. We're thinking maybe June or so. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. Is we partnered with some builders. We've got houses, inventory, legal, everything else, and now building out the beta site, which I'm doing as we speak. And then that'll kind of build our test group and put the process forward. But yeah, just make it as easy for the consumer to understand and get involved.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Graham, over to you.
Yeah, so crypto trader, not a great one since about 2021. And just saw Revolve as a really unique, interesting use case, just something real, something people can touch. I convinced my mom, who turned 70 last year, to invest a little bit into crypto, unfortunately near the top. But some outsiders, they're tech savvy enough to pull off using their iPhone in a basic form, but really real estate is something people know, understand. Hey, you live somewhere, you got to pay for that. The affordability thing. Indie game studio, 2005, in production entertainment, shows, movies, 2012. So had some entrepreneurial background as well. Befriended Zack, and it really, the rest of the history wrote itself from there. And here we are, and we're very close
Yeah.
to launching something that people can feel and touch, and we're really excited about that.
Okay, so you guys are going to be tokenizing real estate. So let's just start with like, yeah, I don't expect you guys to be like historians of realization, like tokenization of real estate, but this has been, I feel like, something we've been talking about. Like people have been excited about. This is like, I think money markets funds were like the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to tokenization. Now, when it comes to like real estate, that's something that people have been excited about. I haven't seen a lot happen here yet. But yeah, love to just kind of like see the industry through your guys' lens. Like, what have you guys seen out there? How do you see this market evolving in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we initially jumped into this as a tokenization, make it about blockchain. Let's really use that verbiage. We're integrating DAOs. We're doing a lot of the major things that we think about, NFTs and collectability. And we were really pushing on that. And it became that the masses don't really understand it. They saw the bubble of like, oh my gosh, crypto is doing this, NFTs are doing all these crazy things. I can't associate real estate with crypto because it's such a stable asset versus such a volatile asset. So when you talk about tokenization, of ETFs, you're talking about just low hanging fruit. And my favorite's been, especially in the fractional real estate world, is like REITs or pools, real estate investment trusts, right? They create a pool of properties and then tokenize the shares. Easy, done. It's boring. It's old. It's, traditional. It's everything that we've seen. What the problem's been in this space is that there hasn't been a project that stepped up and clearly defined what it is that you own. If you even go to like real world competitors, off chain, arrive.com, right? They're the Jeff Bezos backed invest here, single family homes. If you go onto their Reddit, it literally tells you that when you ask what's the market price of this share, the response was, it's just basically, it was just this wishy-washy response. Well, if you're talking about the future of tokenization, you're talking about lendability, you're talking about verifiability, the ability for people to see and understand what they're buying. So as this market is expected to grow from about a $9 billion industry now to a 26 plus billion dollar industry in the next about 7 years, it's about 20% annual growth in fractional real estate. The tokenization side needs to catch up via the ability to really prove what you're buying on chain. It's not this like piece of the company. And that's the problem with crypto right now, in my opinion, has been that it's slightly vague in what do you own, the project, the returns, the things of that nature. So with tokenizing real estate, taking a house, dividing it 1,000 ways, not 100,000, right? Bringing an actual real world value to the back of that NFT, right? We use NFTs instead of instead of coins. And what that does is allow you to now embed operating agreements and things like that, but to go, hey, what do I own? Well, this legal contract that's embedded in this NFT says that I own. So we're taking this Web 2 approach, making it very Web 2-esque in the feel and the advertising. But when it comes to the actual structure and infrastructure, it's still very traditional. So it still is the property is titled as an LLC. It still is that these things, are done in a traditional way. You just use the newest, latest, greatest technology for an untraditional platform to try to create, let's say, the next generation of buyer, right? That's the conversation. It's not, oh, we're just tokenizing pools and stuff that's been done before. So a new idea, a new way. But that's kind of the industry as a whole. It is growing. It is becoming very real as affordability. We can talk about affordability all day long, but people are looking for better asset or better ways. And for us to say you can buy a piece of a house as opposed to invest in this pool or, we manage your money, I feel that, especially with blockchain coming on, self-custodial ownership is on the rise. You can even look at that. The statistics show with from 2019 to 2023, there was 5%. So it was like 16% of the nation had a self-directed portfolio. But in that 3-year span, it increased 5%. So what happened in that? Well, Robinhood, all the, self-trading, but people are very much on this idea. So what we're looking at is how do you bring the ability to not only buy, but to vote on the underlying property, to manage it, to buy, sell, trade anytime you want. That is the idea behind self-custodial ownership of real estate, as opposed to being in an investment pool where somebody else makes those decisions.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Skyler. You look like you got a question.
You're good. No, I was just going to ask you guys, what does that next generation buyer look like? What do they really want? And how do you kind of marry that with housing affordability, fractionalized real estate? How does it all kind of blend together with your guys' thesis?
Yeah, so we were talking with an investor recently who made a great comment, right? And this is what they loved about it. They go, we're moving in as a human race, we're moving into a space age. And for us, the next generation of buyer became, do you have to own the house that you live in? Right? Like, what's heavier, a 10-pound bag of rocks or a 10-pound bag of feathers? What's the difference between owning a $500,000 house you live in and owning $500,000 in a real estate portfolio somewhere, right? That could supplement your rent. It could do all these things, but you don't have to be tied down. And so we've talked to a lot of people that were in this, I want to go travel, but I don't want to be stuck to this giant $500,000 mortgage. Well, could you get a $50,000 credit line and start small? Could you, and buy fractions? Can you buy pieces? Can it be, hey, I'm building towards something bigger? But at the same time, who says that the generic way of buying a house, paying it off, or, every 6 to 8 years, get a new mortgage for $500,000, so you can upgrade. Who says that has to be done in the traditional sense? So next generation of buyer is, we have an entire industry of kids who want to get into something. Maybe they're living an alternative lifestyle of, I do want to go travel. I do want to live downtown. I can live with my parents and own $100,000 worth of rental properties. Who says you can't? But I always laughed. I go, how many more dates would I have gotten if I could walk into a bar and be like, I buy and sell real estate all day? It's like the thing. Look what I own. But the other thing too was, as we brought co-ownership into it, we realized, the initial problem for us was trying to buy more rentals, and rates and everything else put a chokehold on it. Well, if we can get co-ownership involved, we eliminate the banks, eliminate the loan. Now it's everybody owns a piece. If there is any supplemental rent after, management fees, taxes, and insurance, there will be, but I say if there is, right? That gets divided equally by the owners. So now I'm not fighting interest rates to try to get involved in real estate. I also don't have to worry about the underlying asset being leveraged and sold without voting or, anything else like that. Because there'll be no leveraging of the asset, like what you're holding on to. And so that's another thing we talked about was this next generation. They want trust. They want honesty, right? So I'm a licensed real estate agent. My face is out there. You see who you're buying from. You know, if you're pissed off, you can give me a call. Like, and then as far as the management side of it, it's professionally managed. I was in the world of management, so I know all the hiccups and things of that nature. But with the technology we have is communication from tenant to management to ownership, right? All that can be automated to where you're alerted if this person has a maintenance problem. You're like we try to cut out as much of the middleman as possible. And so now we're talking about next generation of real estate agents, right? Now they come out, they have an additional product besides whole homes. We're talking to builders, we're talking of all these things. So yeah, that's the next generation of buyer is going, do I have to own the home I live in? Do I have to own the whole thing? Not necessarily. Can I leverage these assets? Absolutely. We can do the traditional stuff just in a smaller way to kind of broaden the horizons on what's possible.
Yeah. So let's start with your first property that you guys are planning to bring to market here. So let's, I mean, walk us through the step by step. What's happening here? How do you pick the property? I mean, we could go down the rabbit hole, and I'm sure I have a million questions. But let's just start. Like, you got this property. How does this come to market?
Yeah, so we'll keep it vague. I mean, I'll keep it a kind of a light overview. Ultimately, we find homes that are either less than 10 years old, completely renovated in the last 5 years, or brand new. Working with builders has been great because we can list their unsold inventory and things of that nature, right? So we buy the house, it goes into an LLC. We put a contract together that says, hey, in 10 years, we're going to sell this property no matter what. But if the group votes before then to sell it, then we'll sell it, right? The property then goes and gets rented out. We put it up for rent using property management services that we have in-house. And then everything gets tokenized, fractionalized on chain, and then folks can go on there and buy a piece of it. Now, every year you'll get a pop-up saying, hey, do we re-rent this place or do we sell it? No? Okay, great. It's going to get re-rented. One of the nice things that we focus on is that at the end of it, not only do you get your portion of, your 1/1000th or whatever it ends up being, returns on that, you also get equal distributions of anything that's above and beyond the rent or management and everything else. But getting it to the marketplace, fractionalizing it, and managing it is really just this in-house cycle. And to be as not vague as possible, but it is that simple, right? We go after specific properties, we put it into an LLC, we fractionalize it on chain using our platform. It gets managed for 10 years, and then we sell it. And then you think about it from a tenant's perspective, because there's no loan or lien, we're not fighting market rents to try to pay for interest and things like that. So we can actually reduce the rent a splash to be right there in the middle with the market. And from my years of experience, if you go too low, people will never move. If you kind of get that middle ground, they still aren't really looking to move, but you can still get some decent cash flow. And if you go too high, people will move in an instant. There's always the ability. So when I look at it, turnover is one of your biggest expenses, right? So we try to reduce turnover. So process-wise, buy it, find it based on these criteria. Now you as the buyer understand that you're purchasing homes that are less than 10 years old, brand new. You can see the agent, you can see the builder, you can see the documents on where it's titled, at the county right there. You get all of the pieces of trust and understanding that should come from buying homes. But yeah, a lot of competitors and stuff, they hide that information. I know Realty, if you saw them and their coin, they got sued by the city of Detroit because their properties were just condemned, no water, electricity. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on. And it turns out they didn't own half the properties. And Graham and I looked at that. I was looking at the county assessor. I'm like, man, the title hasn't moved in 6 months. They're saying they own this thing? Like, it didn't add up. So when we look at it to go, yes, do we properly title them? Yes. Do we put it in? Yes. It just is what customers want to feel most comfortable about. And that's taking that kind of classic process and bringing it to a digital space.
And we really wanted, the transparency. That's such a big piece of sort of the philosophy behind blockchain. And we wanted to create that bridge out into the real world, because a chain can't verify whether the water heater has leaked, right?
Right.
Right.
Whether it's titled properly at the county assessor. So we're looking at, that philosophy as being one of our cores, and transferring and translating that down every step of the process, start to finish.
Now let's say let's just use like round numbers here. You got $100,000 property that you guys developed and everything. It's ready to go. Uh, are you? I assume you have to have like some cash on the side because this month's not gonna be rented. So you still got to pay taxes, in electric, whatever. Are you maybe taking like 110% of this and then dividing this up by 1,000, selling this, and then ideally as a holder, like you guys are making money on this, and then 10 years from now, I'm gonna profit, or if there's money in between, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the idea, right? Is like from a legal standpoint, I'd just say if there is profits. But when you start to look at the numbers, you go, okay, a 10% management or 12% management fee, insurance and taxes, right? So that all that gets put into escrow, like a generic account. So really the idea was, I'll give you an example. Some of our competitors are at 18% coming out of so they're selling 118% coming out of the gate, right? We're down at 7%. So we can now match it to go, hey, if you went out and shopped a house with a real estate agent, ponied up your money and did all these things, what would it be from an expense standpoint? So for us, we're about 107% with fees. If that's kind of answering your question there, we'll break a house up into 1,000 pieces. Is where we're sitting at now. So $500,000 house is $500 pieces. What will that rent for? So on and so forth. When we talk about what you're talking about is like reserves, and we will have a small reserve account, but typically from property management side of things, the property management company will hold your reserves. Typically what they'll do for a client is hold a $500 reserve in case there is something that isn't met. And then the next month's rent will go towards replenishing that. So we look at it as a management company to go, we're also competent enough that if there is a major repair for $2,600, we can cover that on a net 30 basis so we can get it from next month's rent. So that's part of the experience that comes with this type of project that you have to have, because it can get real messy real quick. Especially when it comes to, do you hold money in escrow accounts that are separate from each property, right? That what we're talking about now is pooling funds or pooling deposits. And, is that held from the real estate agent that brought the property on and fractionalized it, or is that held by the property management company? All of those things are you have to verify them before you even step foot into it. And that's what we talk about with blockchain is great. And we're talking about stable coins. We're talking about the ability to have fiat accounts with a local bank here in Colorado to back those. And then that'll be nice because then the property management companies, no matter where we're at, can pay in fiat. And then it just gets converted and distributed via a stable coin onto the platform to whoever owns it. See, that's the other nice thing about NFTs. I don't care if you guys sell it to each other the next month. I just pay out the wallet that owns the NFT. So it makes it real easy for us as well from an infrastructure standpoint to be for that secondary peer-to-peer trading to kind of come together. But yeah, $100,000 house, break it down. A lot of buyers or a lot of sellers right now are in a concession stage where they're, they'll take 3-4% off. How do you work those deals to really pass it down and go, hey, we can cover our fees from the seller so that the buyers can then get the full value out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. Going back to your comment on the secondary market aspect, I know fractionalization is one thing, creating a liquid market around it is another, right? What are your thoughts about what that looks like? How do you solve for the liquidity problem relative to fractional real estate, or how do you think about it with what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so it's very much like eBay. Let's put it that way, right? You list your
Yeah.
shares, you list your pieces, people will buy them. As far as instant liquidity, that's not something we can offer, and that's not what we're going after.
Right.
You can buy, purchase using we've said various coins and things of that nature is totally fine. But really, when it comes down to you're listing and selling your fractions, the same way you'd list and sell a house. Like that,
Yeah.
it's the idea of taking if I own a rental property and making it 1/1000th, right? So you own it, you list it, you sell it. If you had some friend at a cocktail party, you wanted to buy them from you, go for it. If you want to list it for 110% of market value, right? And we talk about what's market value. What number would you trust? Would you trust Zillow? Would you trust Redfin? Would you trust a combination? So we've also talked about how do you create some sort of agreeable number that people can kind of play the value of their share on
Yeah. Well, that's
without
interesting
making up.
too, because yeah, exactly. Because now, but you're also providing more transparency for the numbers in a new model that hasn't really been that way. I mean, you can get to a point when you get all the details of the project or the real estate, right? But having it transparently on chain providing all the detail is definitely a differentiator for sure.
Well, you have months, right? Like best case, you sell a property in a month, and liquidity with a secondary market on blockchain. We're hoping, you can place kind of a blanket buy order. You can sort of filter what you're looking to buy. I'll buy 95% of the market. These are the states that I'm interested in, this type of property. And the hope is, and the goal is that we can create a scenario where you could sell in minutes. I mean, so be it if it takes a few days. We're talking going from months to days to seconds potentially. So huge advantage in just ownership ease in the liquidity that secondary market is going to
Yeah,
provide.
it's like years from now, this could be like a price discovery model. Like, it could, I mean, it could be like the same way like a stock gets priced every day. Real estate. I mean, eventually it could be, I mean, you guys could maybe use like oracles as the input, and then also like create this like pricing model so people get more real time price as they're looking to buy and sell in these different areas.
Yeah, so banks and Zillow and all these other, they're called AVMs. They use their average valuation models, and those typically take time, right? As far as when the next property sells, it has to update, and it's based on general market data, right? And it's not what we've talked about as an RVM or real time valuation model, right? And what would that be based on? And is it based on day trades? Is it based on what it's selling now? Is it based on the underlying assets? So we've got a lot of questions in there, and really, when I look at kind of the competitors and what they're doing, they control the pricing of their shares. And to me, as a consumer, I look at that to go, well, I don't know if I trust your pricing. I don't know if I trust Zillow's or the appraisers, or, or is it even about that? And again, it goes back to who would you trust? And so as much as I'd love to come out of the gate and say, yeah, we got this real-time valuation model, would people trust it initially, or will it take some time to really kind of weed it out and build that trust?
Are you guys, are you guys planning to tokenize the company?
No, not at this time. The problem we ran into, and I kept saying this to Graham, is if we tokenize it and it starts fluctuating and doing this, people are going to associate that with the real estate.
Yeah.
And it's so, as much as I would love to, as much as I, totally get the idea and I'm about it, we want to introduce a stable coin. We want to do these things. I have this inherent fear that people are just going to associate Revolve with this coin and not with the actual underlying value of the assets themselves.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I like the idea of, yeah, I think you're right. It adds a lot of complication. I do like the idea of like early users, maybe like being incentivized, like, hey, Mike, Skyler, you guys should get in on this like early.
Yes.
Um,
We'll take care. We're going to do like free. If you sign up for our beta test group, we're doing 500 people in our beta test group. We're giving free trading for the first year. We're going to be giving out a lot of freebies and taking care of those initial 500,000 users. We're talking about giving out an NFT as essentially a token to do whatever you want with, like, if we have parties, if we basically make it like the traditional NFT that I can now get perks and benefits and things like that. So we'll definitely help out those initial core people and promote it that way. It's just, I go back to the volatility, and relating it to real estate is the big connection there.
Awesome. Yeah. What do you guys think about? I mean, talk to us about the real estate lending aspect of things. That's been on your radar. Obviously, doing that programmatically on chain can be very interesting, right? That's a very manual process, takes a lot of time. Uh, as far as that goes, what are you guys' thoughts? Maybe can start with you, Zach, and we'll go to Graham as well.
Yeah, Graham can pick up. We've partnered with Nettyworth. They're an on-chain lender for NFTs, so they're actually lending against ERC 721s, and that's our world. So there is this like increased market of NFT lendability. So we're looking at this going, there's players in that space. But when we talk to a local bank here about fiat, the gentleman I spoke to, he's the president of the bank, and he boasted as being the most crypto knowledgeable banker in Colorado. And he goes, I'll give you an example.
Wow.
I was at a conference with some other bankers, and a guy gave a speech on Bitcoin, or sorry, on stable coins. And the main guy walks up and he's like, "Oh, thanks for the information on Bitcoin." About, like, completely lost the fact of what a stable coin is, right? So I'm talking to this guy, and he's like, he goes, I'd say, hey, there's three things we need from you. We love lendability. Like, would you lend against fractional real estate? and he loved the idea. He just goes, it's there's no regulation around it. They don't have any regulation. Eventually they'd be able to do it. Then we talked about hosting our fiat accounts, and he's all about it. So what we are going after is we partnered with Networth to be able to put liens on NFTs. So if you sell the NFT, it pays the loan back, right? That's kind of the idea of like a general house or car or anything else. So when you talk about this like kind of tedious process, we're thinking about, okay, what if I could get a line of credit against my $50,000 portfolio that I have, right? Can you go on to a platform like Networth and find somebody that's putting loans on fractional real estate and giving you 80% loan to value, giving you 8% repayment terms over 5-7 years, right? So if we can prove that, use some private money, all that, then we can create the basis for regulation to now allow banks to then go and actually put liens on the NFTs themselves. Because the question I asked the banker was, hey, right now, let's say 5 people own a property together. Do you put a lien on the property for 20%? Do you put a lien on the contract for 20%? And he goes, they'd put a lien on the property for 20%. And I go, okay, we're trying to avoid putting liens on the properties, because if I default, then it doesn't affect anybody else in the group, because now the collateral is the fractions, not the underlying asset. So now we've been able to separate the risk of losing the asset for the other owners. So that was another big thing on the digital lending side. But yeah, go ahead, Graham.
Well, one of the big values of owning real world real estate is collateral. It's one of the best, most lendable assets that you can have. And we really, from the start, wanted to sort of bring that to life in the real estate that we're offering. We really have a pathway forward in making that possible. We're early. Sometimes with being early, there's, some hurdles, some questions. Not every answer comes initially, but with Networth, we do have a pathway forward to unlock that liquidity day one, which is a huge advantage for us compared to all the competitors.
I'd say unlock the equity over the liquidity, but definitely unlock the equity to be able to access it and do what you want.
Yeah. This is cool. I don't want to go I feel like there's a lot of rabbit holes. Like I don't want to go down the AML rabbit hole or the, like wallet security stuff. I do want to talk to you guys about the future of like digital titling on chain though. I think because that's also another really interesting, kind of concept of tokenizing real estate.
Yeah, so digital titling is going to be interesting. So I don't know if you know Proppy. They've been around with Procoin for a bit, and they kind of headed digital titling, and then they're now, I think they raised $100 million to go buy a bunch of titling companies. And now they're talking AI, and they're moving. So I don't know exactly where that's going. Where I see the issue, the underlying issue happening, and there's like Avalanche is doing it. I think in New Jersey they put a bunch of properties on chain. It won't matter until the state accepts and adopts a blockchain. Because when I bought my rental, I had to do a couple things, titling, and Colorado actually is the only state that has a public trustee's office to record and unrecord liens. That office was created in the late 1800s in order to combat false foreclosures on mining stakes. So there's this one office that you'll never get rid of, right? That I had to go talk to because the clerk and recorder didn't care. And then the county assessor, I had to go to them, and then it became, okay, well, so anyway, it was like a 5-step process, but we now would have to get the county clerk and recorder to update all of their systems to start accepting blockchain, at which point these companies in digital titling can step in. But what I'm looking at right now, and this is a comment I've made before, if I sell my house, does the buyer care about the NFT? No, because it's not a part of the process. It's an extra commodity on top of it. Do I love the idea? Do I think it's great? Yeah, but what Proppy did was they were like, yeah, you get 30 free Procoin if you upload a property. Well, it didn't matter. My neighbor could upload my property, and now Proppy's like, oh, you've got 7, 8 properties in our digital space. Well, great. You don't get my equity. You don't get any, what's the benefit of it, right? And so I look at it to go, yeah, transactionally, it could be great. I think blockchain's the greatest ledger system ever built. I think that's why we're utilizing it, is to go transaction wise. It can happen autonomously without our involvement. But that's a long shot. And I think that for me personally, as much as we want to feel that real estate and titling is gonna change and revolutionize how we do real estate. The reality is, until we change construction and how the state runs and all their funding and payout, that entire thing needs to be transferred to blockchain, because your local counties, you got to remember this too, your local counties are struggling to put gas in the sheriff's cruiser, right? Like you need a platform to come out and go to these little podunk count. But think about this: in Texas, there's counties that literally only take checks and still send you CD-ROMs for property damage.
Yeah.
Right. You have to fax them something too, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Wild, right? So we're
That's wild.
talking about overhauling all of that, and that's a big undertaking. So I love what Proppy and a few other digital titling agencies are doing. We aren't focused on that. We're focused on titling it however the state needs to be. We could, partner with Proppy and say, hey, each house we buy, we can put on an NFT, support the process. But the reality is that doesn't matter for us, because fractional real estate, you as the customer still want to see where it's titled. You still want to see where that's done. But yeah, I just look at it to go. And again, my opinion, fractional or titling on chain is great, but it's going to require the titling companies and the state, because the titling companies do what the state requests, and that's it. That's what they're there to do, and that's what they're insured to do.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, cool. I think I think this is a good spot to kind of ramp it up. Just keep it like high level, and I'd love to touch base with you guys in a couple months once things are live. But tell us, before we wrap up here, just tell us a little bit about your roadmap. So we went over it earlier, but kind of give us, maybe your 5-year plan.
Yeah, I'm gonna give my 2 cents. Graham would love to chime in as well. We're 5-year plan. We'd love to have 1,000 properties on our platform, and that would mean close to $500 million in total GMV, or gross marketplace volume, and have enough properties up that allow people to kind of buy, sell, peer to peer, to move around, do a few things, and make it realistic. For the remaining 12 to 18 months, we're focused on building our beta phase, getting our test group together, and really refining what we're pitching, right? Because that's been the big thing, is getting people to understand blockchain, NFTs, real. That's not the message. So the message has been, it's the easiest way to buy, sell, and co-own real estate. It is. And so that's what we want to focus on. But yeah, 5 years, 1,000 properties, what that looks like from a monetary and head count standpoint, we'll see. But we really want to focus on, getting this product into the hands of real estate agents, getting it into the hands of the everyday general layman, and really making this a product for the people, as opposed to just these big pools of nonsense. But
yeah. Well, Graham, you got your work cut out for you in the marketing side. Let's get your quick take as well.
Right, absolutely. Well, telling the story just essentially is marketing, right? And it's teaching people that there's a new way to own. It's easier, it's faster, it's better. It gives you the flexibility, it gives you the freedom. And that is aligning with people's desire to own a home. But then do you want to live here for 30 years, or do you want to live in anywhere, really? This market, some markets are better than others, or you could take that enthusiasm for ownership, that idea that this is a stable but appreciating asset, historically doubles it's like 10 years. That's the experience I've had in my ownership as well. And that you want to play in that, whoever you are, really, whether you want to actually just put roots in the neighborhood and get to know your neighbors and their kids and their grandkids, and that's your home and that's your future, or taking that idea and giving yourself the freedom to go live in Portugal or spend some of your time in Hong Kong, and you want the freedom to be on the beach in Costa Rica, but the stability of like a suburb in Ohio, right? in your portfolio. And that's the story and the message, and just a new way to own. And for most people, a better way.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's great. Well, this has been great, guys. Where can people go to reach out to you guys to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at revolvetoken.com. You can find us, #RevolveToken on X, LinkedIn. I think we're on Facebook as well, but more active X and LinkedIn there. If you want to email us directly, contact@revolvetoken.com. But otherwise, all the info's right there on our site. As far as beta and beta testing, join our mailing list, and you can sign up, and we'll keep you updated on those. And then, yeah, looking forward to some great perks for everybody who signs up, and looking to get this first property moved and, get everybody involved. Exciting stuff.
Awesome. Well, this has been great, guys. We'll make sure to include all your links down below in the show notes.